I just have to say happy birthday to my old dude. And for y'all who don't understand that part of the black vernacular, I'm talking about my father. Dad, happy birthday to you. I'm going to do a video for everyone because I consider myself to be very blessed and fortunate that pushing my mid 50s, I still have both my parents. So, obviously a special Mother's Day just passed. So my mom is still here that I can say, hey, Ma, happy Mother's Day. Love you. And in the same way, my dad celebrates a birthday. And I'm so glad that he's still here, that I can still say happy birthday. And I think the struggle is that as I get older, the more I realize how blessed I am to, number one, still have that opportunity. But number two, it's also to realize even how blessed and fortunate I have been to have two parents in my life, all my life. And as I think about today, my father's birthday, and birthdays are important to me. I could care less about any other holiday this country or somebody says this is supposed to be special, like Goofy Valentine's Day, Sweetie's Day for y'all in the Midwest. The thing is, I look at my dad now, and as I get older, I see myself being more and more like him. And it just makes me think, and I'm paraphrasing, Fonte, please forgive me for butchering the lyrics of your song, but Fonte talking about by the time you get old enough to realize that your dad was right, your kids are now old enough to start calling you wrong. And that cycle just continues on and on. So I give props to my dad today on his birthday, knowing that he sacrificed many, many years, over 3 decades in that plant. He did it without a safety net. He did it without that feeling that some of us have, especially the black generation now, that, well, you know what, I got a college degree and if I lose my job, I'll just go get another one. No matter what kind of crap he had to put up with at work, he knew it was I'm just going to go out and get another job that's paying me what this one's paying me. And because we weren't balling out, we were just a solid middle-class black family, he went on ahead and still tolerated a whole bunch of racism, and I got proof of that, at his job because he used to come home and talk about it. And that's why I appreciate honoring my dad today on his birthday. Sometimes moms get appreciated on Mother's Day, they get appreciated on their birthdays, and let's be quite honest, mom can be a doggone prawn star. She can be, out here in these streets. She can be a crackhead. She can be a whole lot of things, and we still say, well, that's mama. But I've learned that as I've gotten older, daddy only gets one chance. And if, as a father, you mess up that one chance, there is no redemption. There is very little grace in fatherhood. Hence why we get songs like Papa Was a Rolling Stone. And many others, if you start going down the list in the music genre of how many songs really talk about fathers not having a chance to make a mistake, and mamas do. And so I appreciate my dad that good, bad, and different mistakes or not that all people make inside their marriages. I appreciate him for the man that he was and for the father that he was, because here's the key thing. He was a better dad to his family than what his dad was for him and his sibling. I appreciate now that I've gotten older, all of the things as I reflect of the times that my dad could have lost his life and not seen today because he was helping me out. I remember the time where little, I think the dude's name was Moochie, when my father had him pent up against the house, and this little punk dude went home and told his mama. The police came because my father just wasn't tolerating him coming over to his house acting stupid. I remember the time that I don't know the statute of limitations of who might try to claim anything, but let's just say, I remember the time my dad went out in the alley and with, let's just say, a weapon, and had to handle business on 2 kids that were shooting BB guns at our house. And see, back in those days, their dads or their brothers or their mama didn't come down and run to start doing a drive-by on our crib. Instead, the dads came down, and all they simply told my father was, you know what? Hey, you've met us now. You now know who we are. Just come get us if you have any problems with our sons. As far as I remember, never had any problems with their sons anymore. I remember my dad running outside, chasing the guy who stole my bike. As soon as I went and ran into the house, my dad made me a bike with a steering wheel. Y'all, my bike had a steering wheel. He made me a bike with the steering wheel. And as soon as I came in the house, some dude knocked on the door and was like, hey, somebody just stole your bike. My dad ran out, chased that dude for like a half mile, and he was, relatively young, but my dad was never big into fitness. And so, but he did it to get my bike back. And I'll never forget the guy who told us about it came back with my bike and was like, your father's still chasing him. I remember my dad talking about not having a whole bunch of dudes up around the house because he didn't want any riffraff. He didn't want guys trying to come on up in the house. I remember my dad dealing with those police just like in Boys in the Hood when they called Trey and his dad, when Trey and Furious called the police right when Trey started staying at the house and with his dad, and the guy tried to come in and he broke into the house and Furious shot at him, and the police came over and treated Furious like he was the criminal. That's what happened with my dad. We had to call the police. They didn't show up to hours later in order, and basically told my dad, well, look, if somebody was next door squatting and they looking in your house, it ain't much you can do. And I remember my father really being upset that what took y'all so long to get here? And all the Detroit cop could tell him is, well, while you calling talking about that, we getting another call that somebody is being shot on the other side of town, so we have to go treat that. And that was also a sign to all of us men that you are the first line of defense with your home. And that should be a sign for all you ladies to say, well, I'm good. I call the police if something happened. I don't need no man. Okay, let's see how that works for you. But I've talked about this on my show many a times. The thing that I probably remember the most that my dad did with his family are these trips. And this is why I'm out west with the AC on, because he took his family from Detroit all the way out to the Bay Area year after year, when most of my friends, they were doing something to go to Cedar Point on summer vacation. They were doing something to go down south to see family on summer vacation. Going down south for us was whack. Why would we want to do that? We can go ahead and go out. We were going out to California. I'm seeing states where you didn't see black folks from the time you got out of Chicago until you start to see maybe a couple in Reno. But yet there was my dad as the protector for the family in a 77 Bonneville. And I talk about this for those who know me. The times of seeing the hotels throw up the no vacancy sign when they see him walking up. Remembering him banging on that window, telling that lady, I saw what you did. I see you back there. Knowing that there was nothing that he can do about it. But it was the fact that he was so emasculated as a man in front of his family because of his black skin that he couldn't even get us a hotel room to stay. And I'm not that old. I mean, I'm old, but I ain't that old. So we ain't talking about no black and white 60s stuff. This stuff happened in the late 70s and early 80s in the United States of America. So I understand when my dad even seemed unpatriotic to many, despite having a father and a son that served in the armed forces. But that's because my dad saw the sacrifices that he made for his family to live the American dream, and on how just because of his skin and the things that they used to say about my mother because she was light-skinned, and what the truckers used to say on the road, calling her a nigger lover and things like that. My father saw the worst in this country, even though he was a man that grew up and spent some of his formidable years in San Francisco, where they were at that time, especially in the late 60s, let's just say a lot more diverse. But he saw some ugliness in this country, and he never experienced the racism really until later on in life, because he was from the East, whereas my mother, well, she was a little bit more used to this coming from the South. But I saw my dad fighting for his family. And lastly, I remember my dad, and we still talk about this to this day, in Wells, Nevada. And yeah, I may be coming through your city one day just because. Wells, Nevada. Wells, Nevada, when the so-called Native Americans called me a long-haired nigger. And they were saying something about, I guess, singing some Stevie Wonder song. And I think I was like 8 or 9 years old. I ain't got no hair now. But I remember my dad getting ready to pull out his blade out his pocket and getting ready to fight like 2 or 3 dudes. On one end, he could have just been like, come on, son, let's just go ahead and go. Because what was I going to do at that age? I wasn't about to throw hands. It's always a good thing in a man's life when his sons are willing and able to throw hands with him just in case. But what was I going to do? And I got scared. And I remember I broke wild running. I was like heading back to the hotel. I'm getting out of here. And then my father got mad at me because now, instead of him being able to watch his back to see what these dudes are going to do, he ended up now having to get me because I'm running down the street somewhere at like dusk. But I think the worst part about that incident was the white police officer in Wells, Nevada, that then pretty much told my dad, because he did go try to say, hey, you know, we just walking the street. I'm going out here. I'm driving through trying to get some food for my family. And the police officer like, well, the natives, they think they're white anyway. So, you know, they just think they're white and they're saying stuff. Oh, these were the things that formed me to who I am today, why I'm passionate about race and racial issues. But it's also why I'm passionate about fatherhood. Because I have seen a man that put it all on his life, all on the line, put his life on the line to protect his family. That is why I honor my dad today on his birthday. And I don't know about any of y'all, but if your father is still alive, you give flowers to mama while she's living. And so if you give all the flowers to your mama while she's living, if you go to church that one time a year because you want to go on Mother's Day, what do you do for your father on Father's Day? But also, what do you do for your dad on his birthday? A lot of people write things and they say things about their dad when their dad is dead and gone. Why doesn't dad get flowers while he's alive? Because if anything, he probably needs them maybe even more than mom, because he might have spent less time with you because he was always out there trying to work and get it done. And I know some of you are always going to make the point, well, what about my dad? My dad wasn't doing, well, your mama chose him. So maybe you need to have a talk with your mom and be like, Mama, why you get with a Rollo? Mama, why you get with a Chad? And here's what you might notice is that your daddy might not be the only Rollo and Chad your mama would have gotten with. So should you be more mad at your daddy or should you be more mad at your mama? Either way it goes, if your father stayed around, if your father went to work every day to put food on the table and sacrifice for you and put his life on the line, always knowing at any point in time he might be required to die for you, honor your daddy while he's still alive. If he didn't have to die for you, and if he's still here and has not died yet. Peace, y'all. That's why I'm the Black Prospector. Happy birthday to the original prospector, the man on the CB that was saying, break 19, break 19, this is the prospector. Y'all, that's why I'm the Black Prospector. I'm still searching for gold just the way my dad is and still is. So happy birthday to you, Dad. Love you.